Hello everyone, hope you're managing to all keep safe and well. This is some additional support, an additional video to go alongside the work that you're doing on Everlearner, and it's based around the types of training, methods of training, and it's specifically going to look at continuous training and fartlek training. And once we've talked about these two methods, this is something you could be using your time at home to get out and keep fit and healthy and active, and actually take part in some continuous training and some fartlek training methods. So, just to get you started, as always, if you fancy having a go at these, as we have at the start of every lesson, you'll do now or 5 in 5 task. 5 questions there, if you just want to pause the video and have a go at those 5 questions, and then the next slide will show the answers. So answers. Principles of training was the first one. SPORE stands for a word I struggle with: specificity, progression, overload and reversibility. So all of these questions are just recapping on things we've previously visited. 3 different lever systems we've looked at: first class, second class and third class. A build-up of lactic acid. We've done plenty of practicals where you've felt that build-up of lactic acid within your muscles. And this is when the muscles become tired and start to ache or hurt. We've done lots of work where hopefully you've all felt that build-up of the lactic acid. The main difference between arteries and veins is that arteries carry blood away from the heart, whereas veins carry blood towards the heart. And the final question: describe the pathway of air from the nose and mouth to finish in the alveoli, where gaseous exchange takes place. So hopefully you had these different areas, these different components. We've got the nasal cavity, the trachea, the bronchi, down the bronchioles, into the alveoli where gaseous exchange takes place. So types of training, as I mentioned right at the start, we're going to look at continuous training and fartlek training. Some learning objectives, outcomes there, you can see the different ones. Now over the next few weeks, using the work on Everlearner and the work that we set you, there's going to be 3 main types of training we look at: continuous, fartlek and interval. But within that interval training category, there's a further 4 different types that we'll look at within there. So continuous training, what is it? As you would expect, the title gives you a big clue. It is training continuously. So it involves working at a steady intensity with no rest intervals in the aerobic training zone for at least 20 minutes. So it's just working continuously for at least 20 minutes. Now obviously some exercises you're not going to be able to maintain 20 minutes. So the type of exercise it's going to involve is going to be your running, swimming, cycling, those kind of activities where you can work continuously for 20 minutes. This could be something you're doing your time at home. Hopefully you've all got out and got active. You might have gone for a walk for 20 minutes. If you have, see if you can go for a run. Can you run non-stop for 20 minutes? Can you cycle non-stop 20 minutes? Can you swim non-stop for 20 minutes? If you've got access to a rowing machine, can you row non-stop? So a lot of this is working on cardiovascular endurance or our cardiovascular system. What does it do? Why do we do this type of training? Well, as I mentioned, it improves both our cardiovascular and our muscle endurance. So the ability of our muscles to work for long periods of time, and the ability of our heart and lungs to work for a long period of time. You'd be working in your aerobic training zone. So we talked about anaerobic and aerobic exercise previously, and you'd need to be in your aerobic training zone. This means between 60 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. Remember, we work our maximum heart rate out with the equation 220 minus age. So you can work out what your maximum heart rate is and then what 60 to 80% would be. And hopefully, if you've got a heart rate monitor on your watch, which lots of people do now, you can track your heart rate as you're working. And you'd want to stay in a training zone of between 60 to 80%. So you're working aerobically. When you get above this, past the anaerobic threshold, you start to work anaerobically. And for 14-year-olds, this would work out as something above 165 beats per minute. So you can work out what your aerobic training zone is. 60 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. And if you have got a heart rate monitor on your watch, your smartwatch or another device, then you can track your heart rate as you're working and see if you're working aerobically, which is what continuous exercise or continuous training is designed to do. So a challenge for you: can you run non-stop for 20 minutes? I'd like to think you can all walk non-stop for 20 minutes. Can you cycle non-stop for 20 minutes? Can you swim non-stop for 20 minutes? Advantages and disadvantages of this type of training, this continuous training. Advantages: doesn't require expensive equipment. We can all go out for a walk or a run. Most of us can go out for a bike ride. It's good for beginners. Straightforward, easy, it's not complicated. It might be that some people you need to say, right, can you go for 10 minutes walk and build up to 20 minutes? It might be that some of you have to do 10 minutes run and build up to 20 minutes. It's great to build aerobic endurance, as we discussed, and this could be during the pre-season or the beginning of a training program. So hopefully you're all keeping fit and healthy for when you can get back playing sport. Disadvantage: could be a bit boring. Personally, I really enjoy going for a run. If I can go for a long run, I like that time to clear my head, to think, a bit of isolation even, just thinking about my own thoughts. But a lot of people could find it boring. It can take a long time, at least 20 minutes, could go up to 1 or 2 hours. Only really improves 1 or 2 components of fitness. So mainly our aerobic or cardiovascular endurance, possibly our muscular endurance as well. So the second type of training that we're going to look at is something called Fartlek training. And Fartlek is actually a Swedish word or a Swedish term, and it means speed play. It's a play on speed, from going fast to quick to slow, etc. And Fartlek training is a blend of continuous and interval training, where the exercise is ongoing, so it's sort of continuous, but the intensity goes up and down. The 2 main components of fitness we're working on are our cardiovascular and our muscular endurance again, so similar to the continuous training. And when we're performing this type of training, our heart rate moves from that aerobic training zone into our anaerobic training zone and back, so we keep fluctuating between the 2 different training zones. So it's a great type of training for working different aerobic zones and anaerobic zones and training zones. And as we talked about before, our anaerobic zone is 80 to 90% of our maximum heart rate, and our aerobic training zone about 60 to 80%. So how Fartlek training works: the body uses both energy systems. When energy is produced without oxygen, so that's anaerobically, lactic acid is produced. Training in this zone improves the body's ability to delay and then cope with the accumulation of this lactic acid. And there's a typical heart rate for someone that's taking part in a Fartlek training zone. So you can see their heart rate's going up and down and moving between both the aerobic training zone and the anaerobic training zone. And the reason it's doing that is because we're changing speed and we're changing intensity and how hard we're working. Whereas with continuous training, we're working at the same level within the aerobic training zone. With our Fartlek training, we're changing the intensity. So when we go back to our principles of training and how we can create overload, we're looking at our principles of training, that frequency, intensity, time and time. With Fartlek training, we're very much changing the intensity. So what it actually looks like, and you guys can have a go at this, you can go out and see if you can do a Fartlek training session. It's traditionally done outside over a variety of terrain, so it might be using hills or different surfaces to run on. Here's one example that you could try. So could you go out, start with a 4-minute jog, followed by a 40-second sprint. So we're not stopping in between. It's a type of continuous training. 4-minute jog, 40-second sprint. Then 1-minute walk. There's our recovery. We're going back down into that aerobic training zone. 4-minute jog, 40-second sprint, 1-minute walk, 3-minute jog. So we're changing up a little bit. 20-second sprint, 30-second walk. And just to keep changing the intensity, how we're working. So you could write your own Fartlek training session and go out and see if you could take part in it. We've got that changes in speed, changes in intensity. Great if you've got hills around you, because you might be able to incorporate some hill runs, so running up some hills or down some hills to change that intensity. As with continuous training, there are some advantages and disadvantages. Again, it's cheap, perhaps a bit more interesting than continuous training because we're changing our intensity. It improves both our aerobic and our anaerobic fitness. Good for activities where intensity changes a lot. So you think most team sports, there might be a time when you're sprinting for the ball, then there might be a recovery run, then there might actually be a time when you're just walking or standing still. So when we've got lots of different changes in speed or intensity, which is most team sports. And it improves the body's ability to delay and cope with lactic acid. Disadvantages: need a high level of motivation to go out and do this type of training. Knowledge of the principles of training is needed really to try and manage intensities and make sure you are working both training zones. Okay, so a task that you can have a go at home: get outside, get active. We've had some nice weather recently. You can get outside with your daily exercise. Can you create your own fartlek training session that is specific to your sport or a sport? So can you make it specific to netball, to football, to rugby, to basketball? What type of activities are you doing? If it's football, you might have some sprints in there where you're sprinting for the ball, some recovery runs where you're at 3/4 pace, and then a little bit of walking. You're walking back into position while the ball's out of play. Can you make a training session that is specific to your sport and get out there, get outside, get training, and get active? Think about the times, distances and activities that would be most suitable for you and for your sport. Try and make it at least 25 minutes long, but you may include a warm-up within that 25 minutes. So you might have a 5-minute warm-up followed by 20 minutes of activity. Okay, just some little bits of extra information around continuous and fartlek. If you'd like to, if you're able to, it'd be a great idea to get out there and try and do a continuous training session and a fartlek training session. Stay safe, stay well. Thank you.